How do you feel about how things played out with Mitch in the end and what you're able to get?
Well, yeah, I think the fact that it's become apparent for a long time, for a while now. Probably, obviously, we spoke. I don't know when we spoke, a week ago or so. That Mitch was going to move on. So when a player of Mitch's magnitude moves away, that's never a fun day. But we were able to recoup a player who I think can really help us. And in a situation where a player was walking away this morning for nothing, we were able to recoup like I said, a player that fits a need for us. We're excited about Nick, big centerman. He's got a Stanley Cup ring to his name, and fills a need for us right now. Penalty killing player, right shot. Penalty killing forward, right shot centerman. So we were able to fill a need. We were able to fill a need with Nick joining us.
Brad, Mark Mitch is one of the best players to ever play for this team from this market. A lot of people thought his jersey would be in the Raptors someday. How did it get to this point?
Well, that's probably for another day, right? I would agree with you that Mitch is, he's going to go down as one of the great Leafs, right? The statistics prove it. Ultimately, the player has a choice, and over the time that I've been here, we've had, and I'm not going to get into discussions. I don't think it's proper to get into personal discussions that I have with players, but certainly we approached Mitch to engage him on a contract, as is his right. Mitch and his representative wanted to wait until the year was done, and as it became clearer and clearer to us that potential may not be there, we tried to look at alternatives, right? Obviously, as his right and was negotiated, Mitch has a full no move, so he controlled the process. But that's really where we got to here. I do want, as I would concur with you though, Mitch's time here. I've had 2 years with him, but was able to watch for a long time from afar, and tremendous player, talented, and did a lot for this team over the time that he was here.
At any point, did you offer him more than the 12 per year he signed with?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into any negotiation talk.
There was a report on the weekend about potential tampering and concern you might have had with Vegas. Can you speak to that?
No, I'm not going to. Like I said, any reporting, I'm not going to comment on any of them.
Are you frustrated at all, Brad, with how the process played out?
I don't know if I'm frustrated. No, that's Mitch is a really good player, and like I said, where he was at in his contractual obligation, he had the right to control what he wanted to control, and that's his right. So I think we move forward, and we were able to, as Mark alluded to, secure a player in Nick, and our job now is to look forward to how we address this roster concerns that we've got. When I say concerns, obviously Mitch was a top 6 forward, and we haven't replaced that hole. I think we've been real busy, and we're able to get some good work done leading up to today. But that's really where our focus is moving forward.
How do you do that, Brad? Like, obviously the market is thinning out. It wasn't.
What's that now?
How do you go about doing that?
Well, yeah, that we were looking at it in terms of that role. I think I said the other day, you're not necessarily going to go and find a player to replace Mitch. And in that type of role, the market was limited in terms of those players. So now you have to look at other avenues, and so we'll continue to do that.
What's the thinking on the acquisition of Machelli from Utah?
Yeah, he was a player that our staff had been excited about for a while. Coming off a down year in Utah, when he came into the league, his first 2 years he's a dynamic playmaker. So again, when you look at some of the areas that we need to address, playmaking ability was one of them. And we think there's a bet here on a player that we think can rebound from the season he had this year. And with some of the players that we have, that ultimately it'll come down to the fits and the matches and where they all go. So you play around with it on the board, but we just felt at the price that it cost us, that this was a chance for a young player who's got some dynamic skill and ability. It was certainly worth the bet.
You get Knies back long-term. Can you speak to having 2/3 of the top line?
Yeah, that was a big piece of business for us. You know, we think Matthew is just scratching the surface in terms of what he's capable of, and certainly he was very committed right from the outset to be here and wanted to be here. And these things do, like, I know there's lots of reporting on it. They take time. A lot of times RFA files can go well into the summer. But both sides, I commend Matty and his representatives, and Brandon Pridham. We all dug in on it here for the last, it seems like, number of months, but it's probably been the last number of weeks, and we're able to come to a good conclusion there. So I'm happy to get him signed.
What went into the decision not to qualify Pontus, and do you look at him as being a potentialist to return?
Well, once he gets into the market, those things are, that now he becomes open to everybody. And really, Pontus, it wasn't necessarily a situation we didn't like the player. We did. He had arb rights. I think when you see players go free, sometimes people don't understand the rights that are associated with certain players. So up until 5 o'clock yesterday, if we were to qualify him, he then kicks into arbitration mode, or he's attached to an arbitration filing, and that elevates the number. So we weren't able to, between us and Pontus's side, find a number that we felt fit for us. Now, once you get into the UFA, in a lot of times that number will come down because you're not attached to the arbitration. So we like Pontus. We've had discussions and talked to each other prior to us not qualifying him, but I think it's probably a fair bet to say that he has hit the market, and we'll see where it goes.
What intrigues you about Pizzetta?
Excuse me?
What intrigues you about Pizzetta?
Well, it gives us some more depth, and he's got a skill set in terms of his physicality, good foot speed, able to get in on a forecheck. So it's certainly, excellent teammate. So those are the sort of the boxes he checks, and happy to have him with us.
It's a rarity for any Maple Leaf general manager to have salary cap space after July 1st. How does that feel? How are you going to use it?
A little change in my pocket. Well, again, we would like to go sign. We would have liked to use that earlier today, but if there's not a fit, or if there's not the right fit to use it on, we'll take the flexibility right now. But you certainly want to find players. We've got lots of time in front of us before we start the season, so we're certainly going to be looking to add. And right now, it gives us some flexibility with the space we have.
How do you look at this July 1st compared to other July 1st you've been involved with? So many big names coming off the board early before the bell rang.
Yeah, signing back with their teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which I would say that was our expectation. Just talking around the league and talking to other managers, I think there wasn't as much pressure financially in terms of space that teams had. With the cap rising, I think it gave everybody more salary cap space to retain their own players, and so that's really, when you evaluate it, even going back several months, we thought more likely because of I guess the depth of the free agent class in terms of, for instance, for us, if you're looking for a top six forward, there wasn't a long list of them. And so if you're one of those teams that has a top six forward and you're not going to sign your own guy, you're looking at the same list. So it really steers you to a point where the anticipation was a lot of those guys were going to sign back with their teams, which ended up happening.
Do you think you can still sign one of those forwards in free agency, a top 6 forward? Like, do you still see that being the path?
Of signing which forward?
Top 6 forward, or is it trade?
It's looking thinner and thinner in that marketplace.
So do you anticipate then, you have a lot of forwards, Brad?
Yeah.
Bottom 6, bottom 7, 8, whatever you want to call it, moving one or two of those players out, or?
Yeah, we're looking at all sorts of things. Like I said, everything, the bell goes off at noon today, but you know, this is a project that you work on the team throughout the course of the summer. So we'll jump back up there today and you know, each day going forward, continue to look at it, whether that be the trade route, you know, to Jonas's point, continue to look at the, you know, the available free agent list. What we're trying not to do is you know, if we've got a box there that we call a top 6 box, we're trying to give ourselves as much flexibility rather than spending and not addressing that need, and having some flexibility if an opportunity comes up later down the road, again, whether that be trade or otherwise. And that's probably the path right now that we're looking more closely at.
How difficult was it getting Nick out of Vegas, and what role do you envision for him?
Well, he was an important player for him. I know that, and you know, that's more. Craig and I have talked a lot about it leading up to, so it's probably a better question for him. But I think similar to what he's done in Vegas. Now, they've had tremendous center depth in Vegas, but you know, he's a guy that can match up. I think there's some, you know, one thing he probably doesn't get enough credit for. There's some sneaky skill with him. Like he's got good hands. He can play in tight, kill penalties. You know, gives you a right shot option on the face-off circle. Can play against good players. Can play with good players. So there's versatility to the player. So that's kind of a broad overview. But we think he can be a real important player for us.
What made you comfortable going 3 years with Bo Rents and giving him a bit of a raise there?
Yeah, we've been wrestling with that one for a while. Stevie's come in and fit really well with our group. You see where the numbers have gone to today. Again, there's a little bit of a inflation in when you look at the cap increasing, but you know, Steve and I talked a lot about it. The fit's good. He's happy here. A lot of times, what's the old saying? Don't something with happy. So, so he's. I'm glad it worked out. He's in his 1 year here. He's really fit in well with the group, and so it's good to have Stevie back.
It would appear to be the end of the Hawk experiment. Did you hoping that he was going to, at some point, be able to play?
Well, we've been off for a bit, so we weren't expecting him to play here in the last week or so. But yeah, so we talked to Yanni there at the end of the year and talked about that situation there at the end of the year.
Is there a door open for Patch already?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it the other day. We wanted to get through the first part of free agency here and see where it went, but I certainly haven't closed the door on Max, but you know, I haven't spoken to Alan here today on that.
Were you surprised Florida was able to keep all their kind of big name UFAs, or you become accustomed to what they've been able to do?
Yeah, no, we anticipated there was a path there, and listen, they've done a great job, really good team. They've won, and I think guys enjoy that, and so we know what kind of hockey team they're. Listen, they've been to the finals 3 years in a row, won at the last 2, so they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So, but again, as we talked about, we're not in their meetings, but when we looked from afar, the anticipation was that those guys would be back.
Do you think you're a better team now than you were at the end of the season?
We're July 1st, so we're not. We don't play July 2nd, Kevin. So we plan on continuing to work on the roster.
As you go deeper into the summer, and maybe a potential trades there, would you rather have a top 6 center or a top 6 winger?
We will see. You know, I know everybody wants to talk about second line centers. There's probably 20, by my count, 27 teams that are looking for them. And so the ones that have them aren't giving them out too quickly. But obviously, the top part of our lineup, the top 6 of our lineups, is the area that we're focused on right now, and we'll see how things roll out from here, play out from here.